He inherited a taco shop from an aunt he'd barely known. Planning to sell, he disguised himself as a customer. A nervous waitress slipped him a folded note exposing shocking betrayal, teaching him the people we overlook save us most. The rain hammered against the law office windows like it was trying to break through. Marcus sat in the leather chair that felt too cold, too stiff, holding a document that made absolutely no sense. "Say that again," he asked, staring at Mr. Patterson with genuine confusion. The attorney, a man with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses that kept sliding down his nose, sighed with the patience of someone who'd expected exactly this reaction. "Your Aunt Rosa passed away 2 weeks ago. Natural causes. Peaceful. In her sleep." He paused respectfully. "She left you, as her only living relative, Taqueria Rosa. Complete ownership, the commercial property, equipment, name, customer base, everything." Marcus blinked several times. "The taco shop. Her taqueria." "Exactly. 28 years at the same location, Oak Street, number 412. Heavy silence filled the room. Marcus looked at the deed in front of him as if it were written in a foreign language. His name was right there, printed in official black ink. Legal owner of a neighborhood taqueria. He was the CEO of a real estate development company. He made millions. He lived in a downtown penthouse, drove a luxury car, wore a watch that cost more than most people's yearly salary. And now, he owned a taco shop. "I don't know anything about running a restaurant," he murmured. "Your aunt had a trusted manager. David Ruiz, been there 4 years, knows the business inside out." Mr. Patterson adjusted his glasses. "You could keep him in charge, just oversee things, or sell the property if you prefer. I've already received 3 offers from interested buyers." Marcus rubbed his face. Aunt Rosa. When was the last time he'd even seen her? 2 years? 3? Always too busy, always with an important meeting, always postponing. And now she was gone. Forever. "There's no rush," the attorney said gently. "But there's something else." He slid an envelope across the desk. "She left this for you. Not a legal document, just a personal letter." Marcus took the envelope with hands that trembled slightly. His name written in that shaky but determined handwriting he vaguely remembered. He couldn't open it there. Wouldn't be able to. "Thank you, sir. I'll be in touch in a few days." He left the office carrying papers that transformed his life into something completely different from what he'd planned. That night, alone in his silent apartment, Marcus finally opened the letter. The handwriting danced across the paper, fragile but resolute. "My dear Marcus, if you're reading this, I've gone to be with your Uncle Miguel. Don't be sad. I lived well and without regrets. The taqueria was my life for 28 years. Every taco served, every smile exchanged, every story heard, all of it gave me purpose when I thought I had nothing left. Now it's yours. I know it's not what you expected, but I trust you. Do what your heart tells you. Keep it, transform it, or sell it. I only ask one thing. Take care of the people who work there. They're more than employees. They're family. I love you eternally, Aunt Rosa." Marcus read it 3 times. Each word was a weight on his chest, a reminder of everything he'd lost by being too busy. He looked out the huge apartment window. Down below, the city sparkled. Millions of lights, millions of people, millions of stories he'd never stopped to learn about. When had he become so distant from everything that truly mattered? Suddenly, an idea emerged. Clear, decided. He'd go to the taqueria, but not as Marcus Rivera, Millionaire CEO, new owner. He'd go disguised, as a regular customer. He wanted to see the truth, how the place really functioned when nobody was trying to impress the boss. He wanted to understand what his aunt had built before deciding what to do with it. 3 days later, Marcus stood in front of the mirror doing something he hadn't done in years, removing all symbols of wealth. The Rolex went into the safe, the solid gold chain too, the designer ring, the platinum cufflinks, everything removed. He chose clothes from the most forgotten drawer of his closet, ordinary jeans, plain white t-shirt, generic sneakers. He looked at his reflection. He seemed normal, anonymous, just another guy. Perfect. Nobody at the taqueria knew him personally. His aunt had kept photos of him as a child, but it had been 17 years since he'd set foot in that place. It would be easy to go unnoticed, observe everything, understand the real operation. He grabbed a simple wallet with cash and one card without a business name. Nothing that would reveal who he was. He checked the address on his phone, also switched to a basic model without a designer case, and left. Oak Street was in a working-class neighborhood, 45 minutes from his apartment. Marcus parked the rented car, a popular model, nothing flashy, and walked along the uneven sidewalk. The neighborhood was simple. Small houses pressed together, peeling paint, children playing in the street, laundry drying on improvised lines. Real life happening without filters, without luxury, just happening. He passed an elderly woman carrying heavy bags, a man fixing a bicycle on the sidewalk, teenagers laughing loudly in front of a corner store. When was the last time he'd paid attention to people like this? To ordinary lives, daily struggles, simple joys? And then he saw it. Taqueria Rosa, faded orange facade, hand-painted sign with letters trying to be elegant, windows with white lace curtains, pots with red geraniums in the planters, simple, welcoming, real. Marcus's heart squeezed. Memories flooded back, him as a child, running through that door, the smell of fresh cilantro, his aunt's voice shouting happily, "My beautiful nephew is here." But she wasn't there anymore. He breathed deeply, pushed the door open. An old bell chimed, announcing his entrance. The sound was like a time machine. Immediately he was 7 years old again. The interior was exactly as he remembered, only smaller. 12 tables spread with red and white checkered tablecloths. Cream walls with vintage pictures, black and white photos of the neighborhood, posters of classic Mexican films. Dark wood counter in the back, gleaming clean industrial griddle. And that smell. God, that smell. Fresh cilantro, simmering meat. Something sweet that might be homemade flan. A smell that meant home, security, unconditional love. Marcus closed his eyes for a fraction of a second, allowing himself to feel. "Good morning. Welcome." The female voice brought him back. He opened his eyes and saw a woman approaching. She must have been in her early 30s. Brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Simple uniform. White t-shirt with the taqueria's embroidered logo and jeans. Face without elaborate makeup, just nude lipstick. Naturally pretty, without artifice. But what Marcus really noticed were her eyes. Light brown eyes that should have been cheerful but were tense? Scared? She smiled professionally, but her shoulders were rigid. Her hands gripped the notepad with unnecessary force. Her gaze darted away quickly, like a cornered animal. Something was very wrong. "You can sit wherever you like. I'll be right with you," she said, but her voice had a slight tremor. Marcus chose a table near the window. Good position to observe both the dining room and the street. He sat trying to seem casual. Just another morning customer. There were other people there. An elderly gentleman reading a newspaper with steaming coffee. Two friends talking quietly, laughing about something. A young person in work uniform hurriedly eating tacos. A woman alone typing on a laptop. Normal life. Real people. Nothing staged. The waitress approached again, now with the notepad open and pen in hand. Up close, Marcus saw better. Deep, dark circles, bitten nails, slight tremor in her fingers. Fear. She was afraid of something, or someone. "What would you like?" Marcus opened his mouth to order his usual, a breakfast burrito with black coffee, but he stopped himself. He wasn't there as a rushed CEO. He was there as a regular customer, with time. "What do you recommend for someone who's never been here?" Genuine surprise crossed her eyes. "First time?" "Yes." I was passing by and it looked welcoming. Something changed in her face. The smile became less tense, more real. "Then you have to try the breakfast tacos special. Aunt Rosa's recipe, the former owner. Her voice failed. Pain crossed her expression. "She passed away recently. But we keep everything exactly as she taught us." The knot in Marcus's throat tightened. "Must be very special then." "They're the best in the city," she said with genuine pride in her voice. "They come with fresh salsa and beans." It was her tradition to always welcome new customers this way. Of course it was. His aunt had always been generous even when she didn't have much to give. "Perfect. I'll take it." She wrote it down, but as she turned to leave, her hands visibly trembled. The notepad almost fell. "Wait." She froze, turning slowly. Fear returned to her eyes. Real, palpable fear. "Yes, sir?" Marcus studied her for 2 seconds. It wasn't his business. He was there, disguised, investigating, not getting involved in other people's problems. But something in that vulnerability, that barely contained terror, touched something inside him. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly, gently. "Sorry if I'm being intrusive, but you seem scared. Is something happening?" Her face changed completely. For a second, he thought she'd deny everything and run away. But then tears shone in her eyes, tears she blinked furiously to contain. Trembling voice low. She looked around nervously. I shouldn't. "Hey," Marcus leaned forward, voice even softer. "I know you don't know me, but sometimes a stranger is easier to trust than acquaintances, right? And I promise, whatever you tell me stays just between us." Internal battle passed across her face. She looked toward the kitchen, toward the counter, toward a half-open door where an authoritative male voice came from on the phone. Then she made a decision. Quick, desperate. "Stay here. I'm going to get your food." She whispered so low he barely heard. "When I come back, I'm going to give you something. Don't react. Don't look at anyone. Just read it and pretend you didn't see anything. Please. Are you in danger? Just promise you'll do what I asked. Please." The urgency, the raw desperation in her voice. Marcus nodded slowly. "I promise." She left quickly, disappearing through the kitchen door. Marcus sat there, heart racing. He looked around discreetly. The customers seemed normal, nobody threatening. But that half-open door continued emanating an impatient male voice. Would that be the manager? David? Interminable minutes later, she returned with a tray, a large cup of aromatic coffee with milk, a plate with 3 golden steaming tacos. "House breakfast special," she announced in a normal professional tone. She placed everything on the table carefully. And then, a movement so quick it almost didn't exist, she slid a napkin folded in 4 parts under the saucer. "Enjoy." She walked away rapidly. Marcus looked at the napkin. Ordinary white paper, but it weighed like lead. He picked up the cup as if to drink, bringing the napkin along in the movement. Below the table, where nobody could see, he opened it. Small handwriting, hurried, shaky. "I need help. Manager David is stealing money from the register every day. He sabotages ingredients on purpose to drive customers away. He wants the taqueria to fail so he can buy it cheap. Aunt Rosa trusted him and he's destroying everything. I can't report it alone. He'll fire me and spread that I'm a bad employee. I'll never get work here again. Please help me. This place doesn't deserve to die like this. Sophia." Marcus read it, reread it, and reread it again. Each word was a slap in the face. David, the trusted manager, the person who was supposed to care for his aunt's legacy. He was stealing, sabotaging, deliberately destroying to buy the ruins. Pure rage rose in Marcus's throat, but he controlled himself. He looked up. Sophia was behind the counter, pretending to organize cups, but watching him with terror and hope in her eyes. She'd just trusted her life, her job, her security into the hands of a complete stranger. Marcus did what she'd asked. He didn't react visibly. He picked up the cup, took a sip. The coffee was delicious, exactly as he remembered. His aunt was there, in every drop, and someone was killing this. Folding the napkin and putting it in his pocket discreetly, Marcus made a decision. This wasn't going to happen. He was going to discover the whole truth, and he was going to bring justice to the legacy his aunt had left. The elderly gentleman reading the newspaper looked up briefly, smiled at nothing in particular, went back to his reading. The 2 friends laughed at a shared memory. The young worker paid and left in a hurry. Ordinary life continuing, while betrayal happened behind the scenes. But not for much longer. Marcus took a bite of the taco. It was perfect, seasoned meat, fresh cilantro, that combination of flavors that transported him to childhood. His aunt had spent 28 years perfecting this, creating community, making people feel welcomed, and David was destroying it for greed. Marcus looked at Sophia again. She quickly averted her gaze, but not before he saw the silent question in her eyes. "Will you really help?" He gave an almost imperceptible nod. Relief washed over her face. A sigh, almost inaudible, escaped. She nodded slightly and walked away. But there was something different now, a thin thread of hope, where before there was only despair. Marcus finished his breakfast slowly, observing everything with new attention.
The dynamics of the place, the other employees, the half-open door where the authoritative voice still spoke on the phone. He was no longer just a disguised customer. He was someone on a mission.
And David was about to discover he'd underestimated completely the wrong person. Marcus returned the next morning, and the morning after that, and the one after that, always at the same time, always dressed simply, always choosing different tables so he wouldn't seem suspicious. He watched everything with the attention of someone who'd finally learned to truly see. On his third visit, he ordered the same breakfast special. Sophia brought the tray, her hands still trembling slightly. When she set down the cup, their eyes met for a fraction of a second, a silent question hanging between them. "It's delicious," Marcus said in a normal voice, but then added quietly, "I'm watching. Trust me." Her shoulders relaxed minimally. A barely audible sigh escaped. She nodded subtly and walked away. But something was different now. Hope existed, where before there was only fear. 2 hours dragged by while Marcus remained there. He ordered another coffee, then a taco, pretended to read news on his phone, but his eyes captured every movement, every detail he would have completely ignored before. He watched Sophia serving other customers. With an elderly man using a cane, she was patient, repeating his order 3 times without showing irritation. With a young mother whose baby was crying, she offered a glass of cold water and kind words. With everyone, there was genuine care, not just mechanical professionalism but real attention. He also saw other staff members, a middle-aged woman in the kitchen who hummed while preparing food, a young guy who cleaned tables with care, adjusting each chair, each napkin, people who clearly cared about this place. And then he saw him. David emerged from the small back office. A man in his mid-40s, average height, prominent belly barely disguised by a too-tight dress shirt, dark hair with excessive gel, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He walked to the counter with the posture of someone who thought he owned the place. Sophia visibly stiffened when he approached, a movement so subtle an inattentive person wouldn't notice. But Marcus noticed. "Sophia, I need you to stay late tonight," David said, his voice loud, authoritative. It wasn't a request. It was an order. "But today's my day to pick up my daughter from school at 5, remember that?" "I don't care." He cut her off without even looking at her properly, scrolling on his phone. "You've got work to do here. Figure out who picks her up. That's your problem." Sophia opened her mouth, closed it. Her fingers clutched the dish towel she was holding. "Yes, sir." The young guy cleaning tables, he must have been about 20, looked up, frowning. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but the cook in the kitchen doorway made a discreet gesture with her head. No. Silence. He closed his mouth, returning to work with abrupt movements that betrayed contained anger. Marcus felt his own jaw clench. He breathed deeply, forcing himself to remain calm, invisible. David grabbed something from the register, quick, almost imperceptible. Then he walked to the kitchen area, picked up 2 packages of premium meat from the shelf and stuffed them into a bag he was already carrying. Stealing. Right there, brazenly, in front of everyone. Sophia saw it, the cook saw it, the young guy saw it, but nobody said anything. They just exchanged glances, fear, frustration, helplessness. "I'm heading out for a few hours," David announced loudly. "Sophia's in charge, and I don't want customer complaints when I get back, understood?" "Yes, sir." He left through the front door, the bell chiming cheerfully in grotesque contrast to the tension he left behind. As soon as the door closed, the entire atmosphere seemed to breathe. Shoulders relaxed. Low whispers began in the kitchen. Marcus watched Sophia lean against the counter for a few seconds, head down, as if she needed to gather strength to continue. An hour later, business had slowed down. Only 3 customers remained besides Marcus. He stood up, walked to the counter where Sophia was organizing cups with automatic movements. "Excuse me," he called quietly. She looked up, surprised and cautious. "Could I talk to you for a minute? In private?" Sophia hesitated, looking around. The cook was focused on the stoves. The young guy had gone out to take out the trash. The other customers were absorbed in their own conversations. "There's a small table in the back," she murmured, "near the kitchen door. It's more discreet." Marcus followed to the indicated table, a corner spot half hidden behind a shelf with products for sale. He sat in the creaky chair. Sophia came soon after, nervously drying her hands on her apron. She sat on the edge of the chair, like a bird ready to fly at the slightest sign of danger. "I saw it," Marcus said directly. "Saw him take money from the register, saw him take the meat packages, and saw how all of you are afraid of him." Tears shone in Sophia's eyes. "He does this every single day. Every single day. Takes a little here, a little there, thinks nobody notices. But we notice. We just can't do anything. Why not? Because he's the manager." Her voice was an urgent whisper now. Aunt Rosa trusted him completely. When she got sick in her last months, she left everything in his hands. And he took advantage. The words came out fast, dammed up for so long. It started slowly. Money would disappear here. Ingredients would accidentally expire there. Regular customers started complaining about the quality. Aunt Rosa thought she was imagining things because of the medication. Marcus felt rage boiling. And now he wants to buy the taqueria. Already made an offer to the heirs. I don't even know who they are. Nobody knows. Offered a ridiculous amount, saying the place is failing, that it's worth nothing. Sophia wiped away a tear that escaped. But it's not failing because of the market. It's failing because he's killing it on purpose. How many people work here? 5. Me, Mrs. Carmen in the kitchen, Tommy who cleans and helps at the counter, Jenny who comes on weekends, and David. She lowered her eyes. Everyone needs this job. Mrs. Carmen has 3 kids. Tommy's saving money for college. Jenny takes care of her sick mother. And her voice failed. I'm raising my daughter alone. If he fires me and spreads that I'm a bad employee, nobody in this neighborhood will hire me anymore. He has connections. He has influence. Marcus leaned forward. What if I told you I can really help? That I can stop him? Hope and fear battled on her face. How? You're just a customer. He won't listen to you. Trust me. I just need a few more days. Keep doing your work normally. Write down everything he does wrong, amounts that disappear, things he ruins on purpose, everything. Can you do that? Sophia bit her lip, thinking, then nodded slowly. I can. But why? Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. The question caught Marcus off guard. Why indeed? Because the taqueria was his now? Because he wanted to protect his aunt's legacy? Or because finally, after so long living only at the top, isolated in luxury and power, he'd rediscovered what it meant to see real people with real problems? Because it's the right thing to do, he answered simply. And because this place is special. You can feel it. A small, genuine smile touched Sophia's lips for the first time. Aunt Rosa used to say that. Said taqueria is about people, not about money. About making someone feel welcomed, even if just for 10 minutes. She was right. Over the next 3 days, Marcus returned religiously. He varied the times, sometimes morning, sometimes afternoon, always watching, always mentally noting. He saw David divert money 4 times, saw him accidentally spill salsa on the kitchen floor, forcing Mrs. Carmen to throw away 3 gallons. Saw him be rude to an elderly customer who complained about cold tacos he himself had prepared poorly on purpose. But Marcus also saw other things. He saw Sophia give extra tacos to a street kid who peeked through the window with obvious hunger. Saw Mrs. Carmen prepare special soup for a sick gentleman who came every day. Saw Tommy help a wheelchair-bound lady enter, holding the door with infinite care. He saw real kindness in action. Kindness that didn't expect spotlights, that didn't ask for recognition. One afternoon, while slowly drinking coffee and killing time, he overheard a conversation at the next table. 2 elderly ladies with white hair, clearly old friends. It's different here, isn't it? One of them commented quietly. Since Rosa passed, it really is. The food's not as good. And that new manager, he doesn't have the warmth she had. I know, but Sophia and Carmen try so hard, poor things. I keep coming because of them. Me too. And because this has always been our spot, right? 26 years coming every Tuesday. 26 years of history. How many conversations happened here? How many problems were shared, joys celebrated, tears dried? Marcus looked at the 2 ladies. 26 years of history. How many conversations had happened there? How many problems were confided, joys shared, tears wiped away? This wasn't just a taqueria. It was social fabric. It was a community meeting point. It was a place where people cared about people. And David was destroying this for pure greed. On the fourth day, Marcus made a decision. He called Mr. Patterson from the parking lot before entering the taqueria. "Sir, I need an urgent favor. I want a complete investigation of David Ruiz. Financial, criminal, everything. And I need an audit of the taqueria's register for the last 6 months. Did you discover something?" The attorney's voice sounded concerned. "I discovered I need to protect what's mine, and the people who work there." Hard determination in his voice. "How long will it take?" "Complete audit, about 5 days. Background investigation, 3. I can speed it up if it's urgent." "It's urgent. Very urgent." "Then consider it done." Marcus hung up and sat for a few seconds inside the car, breathing deeply. This wasn't just about money. It wasn't about property. It was about justice. About doing what his aunt would do if she were there. He entered the taqueria with renewed purpose. Sophia saw him enter and her eyes lit up slightly. She approached his table. Already his table, Marcus noticed. Always the same one near the window. "Good morning. The usual?" "Please." He waited for her to write it down, then added quietly, "Any news?" She looked around quickly. David was in the office, door closed, voice loud on the phone. She moved closer, pretending to clean the next table. "Yesterday he took 5 pounds of premium beef. Said it spoiled, but I saw him putting it in his car." Quick whisper. "And this morning he took $200 from the register. I wrote everything down in a hidden notebook." "Good. Keep that notebook somewhere very safe." "I kept it at my house, under the mattress." She hesitated. "Are you really going to be able to stop him?" Marcus held her gaze. "I will. I promise." The office door opened abruptly. David came out, forehead furrowed, phone in hand. Sophia moved away quickly, returning to the counter as if nothing had happened. David looked around with hawk eyes, suspicious. His gaze landed on Marcus for 2 seconds, evaluating, cataloging, then moved on. Just another regular customer. Nothing to worry about. If only he knew that regular customer was the true owner of the place, that every stolen penny was being accounted for, that every sabotage was being documented. Marcus took a sip of coffee, forcing a neutral expression. Patience. Just a few more days. And then David would discover he'd completely underestimated the wrong person. And the good people. Sophia, Mrs. Carmen, Tommy, everyone who made this place continue being special despite everything, would finally have justice. His aunt would be proud. That certainty warmed more than any coffee. The phone rang while Marcus sat in traffic, heading back from the taqueria. "Mr. Patterson, straight to the point as always. We finished the investigation." "Marcus, it's worse than we imagined." Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Tell me." "David Ruiz embezzled $38,000 in 6 months. I documented every penny. There are also 3 labor lawsuits from previous jobs, all for harassment and misappropriation of funds. And I discovered he already has a business license opened under a shell company preparing to buy the property." Heavy silence filled the car. 38,000, Marcus repeated, his voice coming out tense. "While the employees kill themselves working for minimum wage." "Exactly. I assembled a complete dossier, documentary evidence, bank statements, everything. Enough for criminal prosecution if you want." Marcus breathed deeply, thinking fast. "Schedule a meeting for tomorrow morning, at the taqueria, 8 o'clock. I want you there, with all the documents, and bring the updated property certificate with my name on it." "You're going to reveal yourself?" "I'm going to end this farce once and for all." That night, Marcus barely slept. He lay staring at the bedroom ceiling, thinking about everything he'd discovered in the past week. It wasn't just about the stolen money. It was about good people being trampled by someone without character. Sophia raising her daughter alone, trembling with fear of losing her job. Mrs. Carmen supporting 3 kids. Tommy scraping together penny by penny to achieve his dream of studying. All of them prisoners of fear while David robbed without conscience. This would end tomorrow. He got up before dawn, dressed carefully. Not in ordinary clothes this time. Impeccable gray suit, white shirt, navy blue tie, polished leather shoes, watch back on his wrist. He looked at himself in the mirror. Marcus Rivera, businessman, was back, but different, transformed inside in a way he was still processing. He arrived at the taqueria 15 minutes before 8. The bell chimed when he entered. Sophia was wiping tables, preparing for opening. When she saw him in the suit, she stopped mid-motion, confusion clear on her face. "Good morning," Marcus said, his voice different now, firm, authoritative. Good morning." She looked at his clothes, at his upright posture, at the expensive watch. "You're different today." "I am. Is David here yet?" "Not yet. He always arrives at 8:30. Hesitant pause. "Did something happen?" Before Marcus could answer, the door opened again. Mr. Patterson entered carrying a bulky leather briefcase, perfectly combed white hair, impeccable suit, a presence that immediately commanded respect. Sophia looked from one to the other, confusion growing. You know each other." "Sophia," Marcus said gently, "in a few minutes you'll understand everything. For now, I need you to call Mrs. Carmen and Tommy. I want everyone here. But I don't understand. Trust me, please." Something in his look, seriousness mixed with kindness, made her nod. She went to the kitchen, returned minutes later followed by Mrs. Carmen drying her hands on her apron and Tommy still sleepy. "What's going on?" Mrs. Carmen asked, looking suspiciously at the two well-dressed men. "Who are you?" Marcus was about to answer when the door opened one more time. David entered, whistling, phone in hand, completely oblivious. He stopped mid-step when he saw the scene. The two suited men, the gathered employees, the tension in the air. "What is this?" He frowned, his voice immediately rising defensively. "Who are you?" "Sophia, what meeting is this that nobody told me about?" Marcus slowly turned to face him. "Good morning, David. I'm Marcus Rivera, the new owner of Taqueria Rosa." The silence that fell was absolute. Sophia gasped. Mrs. Carmen brought her hand to her mouth. Tommy's eyes widened. David visibly paled. The owner, but the attorney said that I'd decide what to do with the inheritance." "I decided." Marcus took a step forward. "I spent the past week here, disguised as a regular customer, observing everything." The color completely drained from David's face. His eyes widened, mouth opening and closing without sound. "Mr. Marcus," Sophia whispered, voice trembling. You're Aunt Rosa's nephew?" "I am. And I came to investigate how my taqueria was being managed." He didn't take his eyes off David. "I discovered very interesting things." David took a step back, stumbling slightly. "Look, if it's about some small irregularity, I can explain." "Small?" Marcus's voice cut like a blade. "Mr. Patterson, please." The attorney opened his briefcase, pulling out documents. He began reading in a clear, implacable voice. "Proven embezzlement of $38,000 in 6 months. Documented here with bank statements, false invoices, unauthorized withdrawals." He turned the page. "Intentional sabotage of merchandise to depreciate the establishment's value. Documented employee testimonies. Recurring harassment." With each sentence, David grew paler. His eyes jumped from Marcus to the attorney, to the employees, searching for an exit that didn't exist. This is a lie. I never—" He tried to protest, but his voice came out weak without conviction. "A lie?" Marcus took another step. "I saw it, with my own eyes. Saw you take money from the register. Saw you steal packages of meat. Saw you be rude to customers, ruin food on purpose, threaten your employees." Sophia began crying silently. Mrs. Carmen put her arm around her, tears also running down her own face. Tommy clenched his fists, jaw tight. "You knew this." David turned to them, trying to counterattack. "You saw it, and did nothing. You're accomplices." "Accomplices?" Mrs. Carmen's voice came out trembling with rage. "We were scared of you. You threatened us every day, said if we spoke up we'd lose our jobs and never work in this neighborhood again." "He forced me to lie on the inventory," Sophia added, her voice gaining strength. "Said if I told the truth about the thefts, he'd say I was the one who stole, that I had access to the register. Who would believe me? Him, the manager, or me, just a waitress? I have kids to raise!" Mrs. Carmen practically shouted now, years of frustration exploding. "I can't lose my job. You used that against us." David opened his mouth, closed it. Sweat began appearing on his forehead. "You don't understand. The taqueria was losing money. I needed to." "It was losing money because you were stealing."
Tommy exploded, taking a step forward. Mrs. Carmen held his arm. Enough! Marcus's voice cut through the argument. Firm, final. David Ruiz, you're fired for just cause. You have 5 minutes to get your personal belongings and leave. Anything that belongs to the taqueria stays here. You can't do this. I have a contract. Mr. Patterson raised another document.
A contract you violated in at least 12 clauses. Theft, sabotage, harassment, all grounds for immediate dismissal without any severance. And I can add criminal charges if you prefer. David's face went through several expressions. Anger, fear, desperation. I have rights. You had them. You lost them all when you chose to rob an elderly woman who trusted you. Marcus moved closer, voice low but full of authority. My aunt gave you a chance. She gave you trust, and you spat on that. You betrayed her, betrayed this place, betrayed good people who work here. For the first time, something like shame crossed David's face. But it was quick, replaced by impotent rage. You'll regret this. This taqueria will fail without me. I know how it works. It works with people who care, Marcus interrupted. Not with thieves. Now get out before I call the police. David looked around one last time. At the employees who stared at him with a mixture of fear and relief. At the taqueria he'd almost destroyed. At the man who'd unmasked him. Then, without another word, he turned and left, slamming the door. The bell chimed, but this time the sound seemed liberating. Nobody moved for long seconds. Then Sophia collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Not from sadness, from pure, overwhelming relief. Mrs. Carmen joined her, the two hugging and crying. Tommy ran his hands over his face, quickly wiping his own eyes. Marcus stood there, observing, feeling the weight of what had just happened, the responsibility he now carried. You three, he said gently, waiting for them to look up. I want to make one thing clear. Nothing changes for you. Your jobs are secure. Your salaries will be maintained. Actually, I'm going to review them upward, because I'm sure he was paying less than he should. Sophia sobbed harder. Mr. Marcus, you're not going to close the taqueria? Close? Marcus pulled out a chair, sitting in front of them. Not as a distant boss, but as a person. I spent an entire week coming here. I saw how you work. I saw the care you put into every taco served. I saw how you treat customers like family. His voice became softer. I saw you keeping my aunt's legacy alive even when someone was trying to destroy it. Aunt Rosa was special, Mrs. Carmen said, voice choked. She treated us like people, you know. Not like employees. Like people. I know. And that's how you deserve to be treated. Marcus looked at each of them. I don't know much about running a taqueria. My business is real estate. But I know how to recognize good people when I see them. So I need your help. Help? Sophia wiped her face, confused. Yes, I want to keep this place exactly as my aunt would. With her recipes, with her care, with her spirit. Pause. Sophia, you know this taqueria better than anyone. How long have you worked here? 5 years. 5 years seeing how everything works. 5 years learning from my aunt. Marcus made a decision right there. You're the new manager. Sophia's eyes widened. Me? But I don't have experience managing. You have 5 years of experience. And more importantly, you have heart. You have character. You have love for this place. He smiled for the first time. Those are the only qualifications that matter. She started crying again, but now from overwhelming gratitude. And you two, Marcus looked at Mrs. Carmen and Tommy, you'll also get raises. You're the heart of this taqueria. Without you, there is no taqueria Rosa. Tommy wiped his eyes, trying to look strong but completely failing. We don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. Just keep doing what you do, taking care of this place and the people who come here. Mr. Patterson, who'd watched everything in silence, smiled slightly. Aunt Rosa would be very proud of you, Marcus. And for the first time since his aunt had died, Marcus felt that yes, that finally, after so much wasted time in a world of luxury and superficiality, he'd found something real, something no money could buy, true purpose, genuine human connection, and the certainty that doing what's right, even when difficult, even when scary, was always worth it. Because in the end, it wasn't million-dollar contracts or important meetings that defined who you were. It was how you treated people when nobody was watching. It was whether you had the courage to defend the weak. It was whether you chose kindness when greed was easier. And sitting there, in that simple taqueria, surrounded by people who could finally breathe with relief, Marcus Rivera finally understood what his aunt had tried to teach him his whole life. True wealth wasn't in the bank. It was in the heart. Marcus's first week as the acknowledged owner transformed his entire understanding of what truly mattered in life. He started arriving before dawn. The sky still had that dark gray color when he'd park on the narrow street. He'd push through the door, and the smell that greeted him was welcoming in a way no imported cologne had ever been. Fresh cilantro, simmering meat, something sweet that might be cinnamon. Mrs. Carmen was always there first. The woman seemed to have a gift for arriving before everyone else, no matter how early Marcus tried to be. "Good morning, Mr. Marcus. Coffee's ready." She'd hum softly while she worked. Old songs that his aunt used to sing too, ballads that told stories of simple but true life. In the first few days, Marcus felt lost. He'd sit on a stool, holding his cup, not knowing exactly what to do with hands accustomed to typing urgent emails. "Don't just sit there, young man," Mrs. Carmen called out, holding out an apron. "Come help me with these pans." Marcus, who commanded meetings with dozens of executives, trembled as he held the aluminum pan. "I've never done this." "Then it's time to learn." She put butter in his hands, guiding his fingers. "Spread it well, or it'll stick." That's it, just like that. And there he was, Millionaire CEO greasing taco pans at 6 in the morning. The strange thing was not feeling ridiculous. He felt connected, truly present for the first time in years. Mrs. Carmen talked while they worked side by side. She told him about her daughter studying nursing at night, about her little grandson who loved the rice pudding she made, about her husband who worked construction and came home exhausted every evening. "Life isn't easy, Mr. Marcus, but the Lord never gives us more than we can carry." She smiled, kneading dough with strength. Aunt Rosa taught me that. On the worst days, she'd say, "Work with love, Carmen. The rest, God will handle." Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. When was the last time someone had talked to him about real things like this? Not business, not strategies, just life, raw and true. Sophia always arrived at 7 sharp. In those first days as manager, she was visibly tense. Marcus saw it in the small signs, the way she triple-checked everything, how she bit her lip when ordering supplies over the phone, how her hands trembled slightly when writing in her notebook. One morning, he found her in the storage room, leaning against the wall, breathing deeply with her eyes closed. "Sophia?" She opened her eyes quickly, discreetly wiping away a tear. "Sorry, it's so much responsibility. What if I can't handle it?" Marcus pulled over an old crate and sat down. He patted the crate beside him. "Sit here for a minute." She hesitated, then sat on the edge, still tense. "You know why my aunt chose you?" Sophia shook her head. "Because she saw in you what I'm seeing now. Someone who truly cares, who loses sleep worrying about doing things right." He paused. "Do you know how many executives I know who make 10 times what you do and don't have half that dedication? But they know what they're doing. Do they?" Marcus laughed without humor. "Most just know how to pretend they know. You're real, Sophia, and that's worth infinitely more." She wiped another tear, but this time smiled. "Mrs. Rosa used to say I had a heart of gold covered in fear. She was right. But you know what makes gold shine?" Marcus stood up, extending his hand to her. "Polishing. And you're polishing yourself every day. You just need to trust the process." Sophia's transformation wasn't instant. It was gradual, beautiful to watch. A week later, she was on the phone with a supplier trying to push inferior product. Marcus heard her voice, firm. "No, Mr. Johnson, we don't accept that here. Either you send the quality we agreed on, or we'll find another supplier." Simple as that. When she hung up, she saw Marcus watching. She turned red. "Was I too harsh?" "You were perfect." Tommy was a constant surprise. The young man had a hunger to learn that was moving. Between one task and another, he studied. Marcus caught him several times reading textbooks hidden in the storage room during breaks. "How much do you need for college?" Marcus asked directly one afternoon. Tommy nearly dropped the box he was carrying. "What?" "To enroll. How much?" "Mr. Marcus, I can't accept. I haven't offered anything yet for you to refuse." Marcus crossed his arms. "How much?" 3,000. His voice came out low, embarrassed. but it's a lot of money. I can't. Starting next month, your salary includes a scholarship. Half now, half when you start." The notebook slipped from Tommy's hands. He stood frozen, eyes wide, mouth half open. Then he collapsed, literally sat on the floor, and started crying. Not the contained crying of a man trying to be strong. It was a child's crying, sobs that shook his whole body. Marcus sat on the floor beside him. He didn't say anything. He just stayed there. When Tommy could speak, his voice came out strangled. Nobody ever believed in me like this. My aunt believed. She told me about you in a letter. Marcus lied kindly. Said you were special, that you deserved a chance. Tommy wiped his face with his shirt sleeve. I'm going to make it worth it. I swear I will. I know. It was the regular customers who taught Marcus the most about real life. Mr. Williams arrived every morning at 8:15, punctual as a Swiss watch. 79 years old, wooden cane worn smooth, newspaper under his arm. He was your uncle's best friend, Sophia told him. He's been coming here for 34 years. Aunt Rosa never charged him. She said friendship isn't charged. It's honored. Marcus watched the old gentleman. His hands trembled holding the cup. His eyes lingered on the old photos on the wall. Photos of when the neighborhood was different, when people were young, when life was full of promises. He approached the table. Mr. Williams, I'm Marcus, Rosa's nephew. The wrinkled face lit up. Marcus? The little ice cream boy? That's me. Marcus sat down without asking permission. Would you mind if I stayed a bit? It would be an honor, son. They talked for an hour. Mr. Williams told stories about his uncle, how they were friends since childhood, how they built the neighborhood together, how they supported each other through hardships. Your uncle was a man of his word. And your aunt, his voice failed. Your aunt was an angel on earth. When my wife died, I thought I'd go with her. But Rosa wouldn't let me. She'd come to my house, drag me here, put food in front of me. She'd say, Williams, you're not dying while I still have breath. Tears ran down the wrinkled face without shame. She saved me. This taqueria saved me. Here I'm not a lonely old man. I'm part of something. Marcus had to wipe his own eyes. Mrs. Davis and Mrs. Thompson came every Saturday morning. Friends for 47 years, they met there religiously for tacos and conversation. Marcus discovered they started this tradition when both became widows in the same year. We were neighbors, Mrs. Davis told him, slowly stirring her coffee. When my Robert passed, I thought the world had ended. I couldn't get out of bed. Me neither, Mrs. Thompson added. Until one day Rosa showed up at our houses. She said, you two are going to stop dying before your time. Tomorrow, 8 o'clock, I want to see you both here. And we went. We didn't know what to expect. Mrs. Davis smiled with tears in her eyes. When we arrived, Rosa had prepared a special table. Tacos, coffee, everything arranged beautifully. She sat with us and said, now you have each other, and you have this place. Every Saturday here, you'll remember you're still alive. It's been 30 years we've been coming, Mrs. Thompson added. We saw our children grow up, our grandchildren be born. Everything was shared here, at this table. Marcus looked at the two ladies, wrinkled hands holding cups, tired but genuine smiles. Friendship that had survived decades of life. Will you keep coming? Until the day the Lord calls us, Mrs. Davis answered. This place is ours too. The weeks passed, and something extraordinary happened inside Marcus. He stopped compulsively checking emails. He stopped thinking about meetings. He stopped living on autopilot of empty ambition. He started living present. He woke up excited to go to the taqueria, to hear Mrs. Carmen telling about her family's news, to see Sophia growing in confidence each day, to help Tommy with his study materials, to talk with Mr. Williams about the past, to witness Mrs. Davis and Mrs. Thompson laughing at old jokes. One afternoon, he was cleaning tables when he caught himself humming. He stopped, surprised. When was the last time he'd hummed Carefree? Sophia passed by carrying a tray, smiled. You're different, Mr. Marcus. Different how? Lighter, like you took weight off your shoulders. He had. The weight of living a life that wasn't his, of chasing empty success, of ignoring what truly mattered. A month after the confrontation with David, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He sold his real estate company. It wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. thought through, right. Because he realized that world, endless meetings, cold contracts, people who smiled without looking in your eyes, no longer represented him. With the money, he paid off all the taqueria's debts. He renovated the entire kitchen, new equipment, fresh paint, everything Mrs. Carmen deserved. He raised everyone's salary by 40%, and he invested in Sophia. He paid for a business management course, not because he doubted her, but because he wanted to give her tools to fly even higher. "Why are you doing this?" she asked emotionally one night, closing up together. Marcus looked around. Simple wooden tables, mismatched chairs, old Italian coffee machine. Nothing there was luxurious, but everything was real. "Because I spent 32 years building a glass empire. Beautiful from afar, empty inside." He turned to her. "Here, in this simple place, I finally understood what real wealth is." "What is it?" "People. Real connections. Knowing you make a difference in someone's life." He smiled. "My aunt knew that. I spent years ignoring it. But now I understand." Sophia wiped her eyes. "She would be so proud of you." That night, Marcus returned to the apartment that now seemed too big and empty. He went to the closet, pulled out an old box from the back. Inside, yellowed childhood photographs. Him small at the taqueria, smiling with a melting ice cream. His aunt behind the counter, apron stained with flour, huge smile. His uncle polishing the coffee machine with care. One specific photo made him stop completely. Him at 7 years old, on the high stool, legs swinging without reaching the floor. His aunt beside him, hand on his shoulder, looking at him with love so pure it seeped from the faded photograph. And behind, on the taqueria wall, a small hand-embroidered frame he'd completely forgotten. "What you do with love is never small." Marcus read it, reread it. Let the words penetrate deep. His aunt had spent 28 years serving tacos. She didn't discover cures for diseases. She didn't invent revolutionary technology. She didn't change the world on a global scale. But she changed Mr. Williams's world, giving him reason to keep living. She changed Mrs. Davis and Mrs. Thompson's world, offering refuge when they needed it most. She changed Sophia's world, believing in her when nobody else did. She changed Mrs. Carmen's, Tommy's, every person who entered that taqueria and was treated like family. Small acts of love, multiplied over 28 years, generated impact infinitely greater than any $1 million contract Marcus had ever closed. He carefully put away the photos, but framed that one and placed it on his nightstand, because he needed the daily reminder of the lesson that cost too dearly, cost losing his aunt, to learn. Tomorrow would be another day, a day to wake early, prepare tacos, serve people, hear stories, make silent but real difference. Another day of finally truly living. And for the first time in wasted decades, he not only looked forward to tomorrow, he could hardly wait. 6 months had passed since that morning when Gabriel discovered the truth about David. Autumn arrived, bringing cooler winds, dry leaves dancing on the sidewalks, that golden afternoon light that made everything more beautiful. And Taqueria Rosa was unrecognizable, not in physical structure but in the energy that emanated from it. Marcus arrived before dawn, as he did every day now. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Because that simple routine had become the most meaningful part of his life. Mrs. Carmen was already there, obviously. She smiled when she saw him enter. "Good morning, son. Look, I made cornbread last night, my mother's recipe. Mrs. Carmen, you don't need to bring things from home. Who said it's obligation?" She cut a generous slice. "It's affection. Learn the difference." Marcus accepted the bread, feeling his heart squeeze in a good way. Affection. When had anyone done something for him just out of affection, expecting nothing in return? They worked side by side, preparing everything for opening. The movements were already synchronized, like a rehearsed dance. She kneaded the dough. He greased the pans. She seasoned the meat. He organized the cups. "You know what Aunt Rosa used to say?" Mrs. Carmen spoke suddenly, breaking the comfortable silence. "She said you recognize good people not by what they say, but by what they do when nobody's paying attention." She looked at Marcus with those wise eyes. "You're good people, Mr. Marcus. The kind she liked." He had to look away, emotion tightening his throat. Sophia arrived at 7, punctual as always, but different. There was new confidence in the way she entered, in how she greeted everyone, in the manner she checked inventory and organized the day. She was no longer the frightened waitress. She was a true manager, a respected leader. "Good morning, everyone." She hung her purse, tied her apron. "Mr. Marcus, the supplier called yesterday confirming delivery. And that customer who complained last week? He came back yesterday and praised everything. Said we've improved a lot." "It was you who improved," Marcus responded. "I just gave the opportunity. The rest was all you." Sophia blushed, but smiled with genuine pride. "My daughter asked me yesterday what I wanted to be when I grew up." She laughed. "I said I want to be like Aunt Rosa, make a difference in people's lives. You're already doing it." Tommy arrived minutes later, backpack under his arm, eyes with dark circles from someone who'd studied late, but his smile was huge. "How's it going, college student?" Marcus teased. "Survived the first month of classes?" "Survived, and I'm loving it." Tommy put away his backpack carefully. "Yesterday, the professor talked about people management, and I kept thinking about everything that happens here. Theory makes sense when you see it in practice, you know. So teach me. What did you learn?" Tommy's eyes shone. For 15 minutes, while they organized chairs and wiped tables, the young man explained concepts of leadership, motivation, teamwork. Marcus listened fascinated, not by the theories themselves, but by the passion with which Tommy spoke. That boy, no, that young man, was blooming, and Marcus had helped that happen. The morning passed in the now familiar rhythm. Mr. Williams arrived at 8:15, precise as a clock. Marcus didn't wait for him to settle. He personally brought the coffee and sat across from him. "Good morning, Mr. Williams." "Good morning, son." The old man smiled, wrinkles deepening. "I've been coming here for 34 years, and I've never been treated so well. Your aunt would be so happy." "You knew her better than I did," Marcus admitted. "I wish I'd spent more time with her." Mr. Williams held his hand over the table, weak but firm grip. "She knew you loved her. And seeing you now, taking care of this place, she's smiling up there. I'm sure of it." At 9, Mrs. Davis and Mrs. Thompson entered. It wasn't Saturday, their usual day, but they'd started coming more often during the week. They said the taqueria had good energy again. "Mr. Marcus," Mrs. Davis waved. "Look, we brought a new friend. Mrs. Patterson just lost her husband. We thought she needed to know our special place." The woman beside them had swollen eyes from recent crying, disheveled gray hair, dark mourning clothes, the kind of deep sadness that weighs on the shoulders. Marcus approached slowly. "Mrs. Patterson, you're very welcome here. The tacos and coffee are on the house. You don't need to—" Her voice came out weak. "Yes, I do." He smiled gently. "Here we take care of people who need to be cared for. It was my aunt's rule, and it still is." Mrs. Patterson broke down crying right there. Mrs. Davis and Mrs. Thompson hugged her, let her cry, murmured words of comfort that only those who've been through deep pain know how to say. Marcus stepped away discreetly, but his heart was tight. That moment of pure humanity, of people caring for people without expecting anything in return, was worth more than any business meeting he'd ever attended. In the afternoon, when business had slowed, Marcus grabbed the car keys. "Sophia, I'm going out for a couple hours. Call me if you need anything. Everything's under control. Go ahead." He drove across the city until reaching the cemetery. He hadn't come since the funeral. He'd avoided it out of guilt, pain, cowardice. But now he needed to come. He walked among the graves until finding hers. Simple, as she'd always been. Just name, dates, and one phrase. She lived with love. She left in peace. Marcus knelt on the grass. He cleaned the dry leaves that had accumulated. He straightened the wilted flowers. "Hi, Aunt Rosa." His voice came out choked. "Sorry it took so long to come." The wind rustled the surrounding trees, leaves whispering. I didn't know what to say before. How to apologize for being so absent, for ignoring everything you tried to teach me." Tears began falling without control. "You left me the taqueria thinking I'd sell it, right? Thinking I'd ignore it again." Silence. Just the wind. "But you know what happened? I finally woke up. Finally understood what you were trying to show me my whole life." He wiped his face with the back of his hand. "I understood that success isn't how much money you have. It's how many lives you touch. It's truly caring about people." A bird landed nearby, sang briefly, flew away. "I really got to know Mr. Williams now. He told me how you saved him when his wife died. I met Mrs. Davis and Mrs. Thompson, who you brought together when they both thought life had ended. I met Sophia, who you believed in when nobody else did. Marcus breathed deeply, trying to control the emotion. And you know what else? I'm trying to do the same. I'm trying to be half the person you were. I helped Tommy realize his dream of studying. I gave Sophia a chance to show what she's capable of. I'm learning to really see people, not as numbers or employees, but as people. He placed his hand on the cold headstone. Thank you, Aunt Rosa. Thank you for not giving up on me even when I gave up on myself. Thank you for leaving me that taqueria knowing I needed it more than it needed me. He stayed there seated for a long time. He didn't pray. He'd never known how to pray well. He just stayed present, feeling the wind, hearing the birds, letting the peace of that place penetrate deep. When he finally got up to leave, he felt something different. It wasn't that the pain had disappeared, but now it had purpose. It had direction. It had peace. He returned to the taqueria when the sun was beginning to set. The golden afternoon light came through the windows, making everything glow. Sophia was at the counter talking with an elderly customer. Tommy was cleaning tables, whistling softly. Mrs. Carmen was coming out of the kitchen with a tray of fresh tacos. Marcus stopped at the door, just observing. That simple scene, people working together, caring for each other, laughing at silly jokes, was more beautiful than any luxurious corporate office he'd ever known. "Mr. Marcus!" Tommy saw him. "Everything okay? You look different." "I'm fine, I'm great, actually." Mrs. Carmen approached, studying his face with that wisdom of someone who'd lived much. "You went to see her, didn't you?" He nodded, without asking how she knew. "And you made peace with the past?" "I'm trying, one day at a time." "That's how it is, son." She squeezed his arm. "Life isn't about being perfect. It's about trying to be a little better every day." That night, after everyone had left, Marcus stayed alone at the taqueria. He sat at the same table where Sophia had handed him the folded napkin months ago. The same table where everything had started to change. He looked around. Walls with old photos, worn wooden tables, the coffee machine that made funny noises. Nothing there was sophisticated. Nothing was luxurious. But everything was real. Everything had history. Everything had soul. He pulled out his phone and opened the old photos he'd saved. Young Aunt inaugurating the taqueria. Aunt serving customers with that huge smile. Aunt hugging him when he was a child. And that embroidered phrase he now understood completely. What you do with love is never small. She'd spent 28 years serving tacos. She didn't win awards. She didn't appear in magazines. She didn't build an empire. But she built community. She created family. She saved lives. And that, Marcus finally understood, was the greatest wealth possible. His phone vibrated. Message from Sophia. "Thank you for everything, boss. Aunt Rosa chose the right person to continue her legacy." Another message from Tommy. "I passed my first test. Got an A. I'll never forget you believed in me." Marcus smiled through tears. He got up, turned off the lights, locked the door. But before leaving, he turned one last time. "Thank you, Aunt Rosa," he whispered to the empty taqueria, "for teaching me that greatness has nothing to do with the size of success. It has to do with the size of the heart." On the way home, he stopped at a red light. He saw a homeless man on the corner asking for help. Before, he would have looked away. Now he rolled down the window, called the man, gave him enough money for a decent meal. "God bless you," the man said, eyes tearing up. "He already has," Marcus responded. "He taught me to truly see." The light turned green. He kept driving, but not to the empty apartment. He went to the supermarket, bought groceries. Then he went to Sophia's house, a dress she'd given for emergencies. He knocked on the door. She opened, surprised, still in her apron. "Mr. Marcus, did something happen?" "No, nothing. Just brought some things. Thought it might help." Sophia looked at the bags, then at him. Tears filled her eyes. "You didn't have to." "I know, but I wanted to. Because that's what people who care do." She hugged him right there, at the door, crying on his shoulder. "Thank you. Truly, thank you so much." Marcus drove back home with a lighter heart than he remembered feeling. When he arrived at the apartment, he didn't turn on the TV or computer. He just sat on the balcony looking at the city, and for the first time in decades, He didn't feel empty. He felt full, because he'd finally understood the most important lesson life could teach. It doesn't matter how much you have. What matters is how much you give. It doesn't matter how high you climb. What matters is how many people you help climb with you. It doesn't matter how much success you accumulate. What matters is how much love you spread. His aunt had lived this every single day. Now it was his turn to do the same. And do it not with grand gestures or donated fortunes, but with small daily acts of kindness, with tacos served with care, with opportunity given to those who need it, with true presence in the lives of those who matter. What you do with love is never small. Marcus repeated the phrase aloud, letting it echo in the night. Tomorrow would be a new day. More tacos to serve, more stories to hear, more lives to touch. And he couldn't wait to begin, because he'd finally discovered the secret his aunt always knew. True wealth wasn't in what you conquered. It was in what you became along the way. And Marcus had become finally someone he could be proud of. Someone his aunt would have hugged tight and said, "I knew you could do it, my dear nephew. I always knew." And that was worth more than all the gold in the world.